Okay, hello, we are live. Hello and welcome. So my name is Darcy Daniels and I'm a garden designer, and I've been working around the Portland area for the last 20 plus years. And over the last several years, I've been creating a website called eGarden Go. And eGarden Go is a well, first of all, the talk has garnered a lot of interest, and some of the viewers that are out there probably aren't aware of eGarden Go. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk with you about the site. It's a free online tool for garden makers, and you're able to scroll through luscious photos of plants and gardens, and when one catches your eye, you can just delve deeper to discover the plants that are included in that combination, the recipe. Or you can search for a plant and get ideas of what to plant with it. Or you can explore plants and combinations based on aesthetic desires or preferences, cultural requirements, or the job that you need it to do for you. I post regularly on my blog with garden design oriented topics. And in keeping with my desire to be a resource for good garden content, I've started this series that you're taking part in today. In a moment, I'll be introducing Kate and Sean. They're our guests for today's conversation about the Portland Botanical Gardens. But first, I just want to draw your attention to another replay that's available. I had Laura Crockett with me last week from Garden Diva Designs, and that presentation is available now as a replay on the website, and that is another free presentation. I have some other events that are more members only. So for example, I have this live chat coming up next week on the 27th. And members are going to be invited to join me for a live stream where I'll be available to answer questions, swap garden tips and stories, and just generally geek out on the joy and the wonder of garden making. One final little housekeeping issue before I introduce our guests. I want to remind you that if you want to ask a question or post a comment, that needs to be done via YouTube. So if your screen looks a lot like what you see here, a lot of white space, you're on my member site. And that's fine. You can just relax and watch from right there. But if you decide that you would like to engage with Kate and Sean, you will need to navigate over to YouTube and ask your questions from there. And now on with the show. So welcome, Kate and Sean. First, I'd like to introduce Kate. Kate is the executive director of this venture, and she's leading the effort to build the garden in partnership with the co-founders and founding staff. Not only does Kate bring years of leadership and management experience, but she also has a passion for building programs and loves working with people and plants. Before becoming a registered horticultural therapist, she spent 11 years as the academic leader at 2 art colleges. She currently teaches horticulture at Portland Community College. And in addition to her horticultural education, Kate holds an MED in Creative Arts and Learning and an undergraduate degree in visual art. In Portland since 2005, Kate is an avid and experienced gardener, photographer, and outdoorswoman. And she loves to travel anywhere that plants are available to be studied. And Sean needs very little introduction for many of our viewers today. He is well known in the worldwide horticultural community. His mission is to popularize the unlimited joys of the plant world through education, outreach, example, and contagious enthusiasm. In his past life, Sean served as the director of collections at the Hoyt Arboretum and as a horticulturalist at the UC Berkeley Botanical Garden. Sean is the owner of Sistis Design Nursery, specializing in public and private garden design, as well as the collection and introduction of new and appropriate plants. Sistis is committed to testing plant performance in the Portland area and providing interesting and unusual climate-appropriate plants for the Pacific Northwest, the West, and beyond. Currently, his focus has been on the introduction of new and appropriate plants to Western North America, and specifically the popularization of underused and unknown plants for summer dry climates. Whew, what a team. So welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think people are going to be really, really interested in what you have to say. I am certainly myself. And I think that maybe one of the best ways to really get started with this conversation is kind of talk about how we got here. You know, what was the kernel? You know, how did this venture take shape?
Well, Sean, you were at it before I was, so
all right. Well,
start?
I'll start. Well, I think a lot of us here in the horticulture community have thought for a long time that Portland needs a larger and inclusive public garden to both complement and really benefit our other really great gardens in the city that are a bit more sort of culturally themed, more than just simply horticulture. And, you know, many of us have started these efforts now and again in the past, only get derailed by life and other projects and things like that. So really only about a little under 2 years ago, a group of people, Dan Pogus, one of our founders, talked to me about, hey, there are all these endangered plants like passifloras and things. What about setting up a program? And we started looking at that just as an example of what we could do here. Paige Whitty, our other co-founder, really passionate about education, both kids and university track, then became involved right away. And it was just off. And then we found our Kate here, who can actually organize us, which is
so
really
key.
miracle. So really, it's a team that gets on so well together. And what we've been so lucky to have is the realization that Portland really wants this. People have appeared as if it were just in the water, as it were. We've had so much work happen, and we've just got people busy all over the place making this happen.
Wow, that is exciting. So what would we'll wait for some questions to start coming in. I think we're going to have some of that happening soon. But as we're kind of introducing the topic, I'm wondering if you could kind of describe the vision a little bit for us, you know, paint a picture of, you know, what is this thing that you are visioning right now? The best you can. The best you can.
You want to start with that, Kate? Or
well, why don't I start with just the basic premise, I guess, and then you can. And I thought it would be really great if you would take your vision of the garden and walk people through as if they're entering into the garden. But basically, we're looking at a fairly large amount of acreage. 80 to 100 acres is our sort of prime goal, and it will have all kinds of access. There'll be a main rotunda probably for public to come and visit, and outside gardens and conservatories, and that's kind of a really very deep educational programming, and primarily we really want to be able to serve all of the public. So I think that I could see Sean thinking about how he's opening the gate and starting to wander through. So
take us through, Sean. Yes, take us through that, because this is 80 to 100 acres. That is no small piece of land.
No, we're not thinking particularly small here, and I think part of that is because I think all of us think Portland deserves something that is really amazing for everyone. So really the picture here is, imagine up to 5 conservatories, something built that's just, pretty fabo. We've got some amazing people as far as design helping us out, Allied Works and Place, landscape architecture, and others as part of this team. And it's amazing having a lot of people in the same room that, the ideas just build. But essentially 5 conservatories really showcasing the wonders of the world. So many things for especially kids to get absolutely hooked on. And I was so lucky to have that happen to me when I was a child. And there are some aspects that our city does not have. And So that inside the glass, from the weirdest carnivorous plants to things that are adapted to look like rocks to weird climates from all over the world. But the fun thing is, with a climate like ours, outside both the real and the metaphorical glass, we have other what we're calling biogeographic gardens. So for instance, you're looking at weird and wonderful rock plants from South Africa or strange Scheffleras from Vietnam. Step outside the glass and we've got the same thing from warm temperate climates that we can actually do outside. So
interesting, kind of linking those two, not only educationally, but kind of maybe physically, so that the flow goes that way. Nice.
So it's the fun of this is that looking at, for instance, well, certainly there'll be a lot of concentration on our own sort of ecosystems. Western Oregon, what we call the Oregon and the California floristic provinces. So many weird and wonderful things there, like Oregon's weird serpentine plants and things like that. So we'll have, for example, I like to use the term traversing Oregon. So one in this garden could take a quick walk from the redwoods through the dry valleys, through the Cascades, through the deserts, and end up in the Rocky Mountain flora of the Wallowa Mountains in Northeast Oregon, but in 10
that's cool. Yeah.
And really juxtaposed to that would be what we're calling walking the world. So not only are we able to look at our own ecosystems and the cool things in them, but juxtapose them to other Mediterranean climates all over the world, and then other climates also. So really, for instance, here we have the Japanese and Chinese gardens, which are wonderful things. And they are the results of hundreds of years of horticulture, hundreds of years longer than we've even been a city. And imagine walking from those gardens into plant associations that we'd really find in parts of Japan and other parts of Asia. So we actually get to see what those things look like. So it's that kind of thing. And within all of those are things that we're going to be using as examples of horticulture. And something to me that is so useful is to be able to see these plants in the ground and not only look at their weird and wonderful ways, but think, wait a minute, that's doing really well here. I could use that plant in my garden.
Right.
And so really, hopefully, in a well-curated, to use a museum term, sense, we'll be able to have things that are horticulture, ethnobotanical. So we're using our own cultures and our own ancient cultures. So everyone's eyes from everyone's communities on this, from not only locally, but all over the world. And we've got so many communities in Portland that will be part of building this. And that to me is super exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. That's a wonderful picture. I'm just like, so when Kate, do you have anything to add to that, to springboard on?
Other than we also want to be able to bring in local food producers and chefs and music, and we really want to be able to reach out to the local artistic community and really involve those people as well.
Nice. Is there, like, for those that have traveled to, when I go to different areas, I'm always looking for the botanical garden to get that flavor of a place. And so a lot of our viewers, I think, and listeners have probably done the same. Are there any models that you're kind of really keen on that would help people hang their hat on the overall concept that you have in mind? Does that make sense? Like, is there certain sites or botanical gardens that are really inspiring to you that you want to take the best parts of?
Oh, absolutely. Kate, do you want to start with some of your faves?
Well, I haven't been, actually, have to admit, I haven't been to an awful lot of them. But I know, well, I shouldn't tell you what you love, but I know we're always looking at Kew as an amazing resource. The ones that I've been to are not probably as inspiring.
What would you say to that, Sean?
Well, with so many great gardens out there, one advantage we really do have is that many of those institutions are, for instance, Kew, they're a couple hundred years old. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, in Portland, we've only been gardening here for 150 years or so. So we're really just kind of figuring out what our style is. And culturally, I think that's pretty interesting. And also, we haven't developed our own flora that much just because there hasn't been that much time. So we have institutions like Kew and Wisley and other gardens in the UK that have done, especially programmatically, such amazing jobs with herbaria, really intensely studying. It's sort of where I say the grown-ups have been gardening.
Yeah.
Berkeley, which, really, I cut my teeth on public gardens at UC Berkeley, which is also a geographically based garden. And also a lot of very strong programs, not just all very dry academic, but a lot of other sort of bringing the community into the garden and making them part of it kind of scene. We also have Kirstenbosch in South Africa that has taken their regional gardens and just done absolutely exquisite things with them. So really, one of the points here is that there will be academia. There'll be some serious stuff going on, but maybe most importantly, this thing has got to bring absolute joy when people enter the gates and see just the pleasure of being there and smelling winter flowers, or anything one does in a garden or even in a natural area. And really, there's something we've always called passive learning. So you don't have to be that studious when you enter a garden. If you're having a good time, if interpretive material is actually maybe even funny, so people's minds open up, they'll learn a lot of stuff. And part of really the new thing we call wellness in as far as natural settings go, it'll be a happy place for many reasons. And people, voters, activists, or just gardeners will walk away every time because they'll all become members. So
absolutely.
So let's segue from there about a little bit more. I mean, you've kind of touched on it, I think. So I don't know if you have a lot more to add, but this idea of who it's for is something that we talked about in advance that you wanted to cover. So is there something that you would add to that?
You want me to start here?
Yeah,
Kate?
you start.
All right. Well, it's for everybody, for one thing. It's one thing, and a lot of these we base these things all on our own experiences, and hopefully those around us. In Portland, I found that it's such an easy city to become connected in, but we have to realize it's not true for everyone. Whether it's we moved here from another country, whether it's socioeconomic, there are a lot of us that don't feel connected to our cultural center. And there is so much to, for instance, bringing people in the same room, let's talk about plants your grandma grew, everybody from all over the world. And suddenly there really is a lot less discomfort with it. So this is to be a place where everybody wants to come and hang out. I'm thinking of it as sort of a horticultural speakeasy.
I like that.
So, and of course there'll be a bar, I'm just saying.
Okay. At least a cafe.
At least, right.
At least.
No, I think really it's, the idea is about community. So at least metaphorically, this rotunda, this area, everybody will have access to it, whether you can afford it or not. And that is super important. And really, what better way than to connect through plants that really is there, and get the negative side of politics out of the air for a moment. There's an example I do like to use at our nursery years ago. I had just gotten a little fig. It was a Ficus afghanistanica, so a little species fig, native of sort of the dry areas of South Asia. And someone came in and saw this little stick I had just planted in the ground, and really literally fell to their knees and told me a story about growing up on the Iran-Pakistan border. I'd go out every late summer with my dad to pick these figs. And it wasn't even about the fruit. It was about the smell of the leaves. It was about the experience. So of course I run back and give him a plant because we didn't really have any ready for sale yet. He and all his friends and family kept coming in, even through the recession, and would buy things they didn't even need to buy just because it's like, you gave me a fig. And so there's this generosity in the plant community that really can be contagious.
So true.
So there.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. you know, that people are gonna. There's a couple things that I think come a little later, but I keep. So it's for everyone, which I love that. So does that mean it's where is this? Is it a public garden? Is it a membership? How is it funded? What is the mechanism for doing this fantastic thing? Or am I jumping ahead on our?
We're working on it.
Yeah, I know, but it's
no, realistically, we do see that there are memberships, of course, and or members, as you will. But we also, and I don't think that we can actually figure out the entire mechanism until we have the land and can see what the garden is going to look like and what community we're actually, within. But we also feel very strongly that people need to have access to nature and plants. And so whether that means free days that anybody can come in, or, and hopefully there'll be a lot of funding through government agencies, cities, and grants and
so it's very much still in that part is very much still in process.
Very much so. Yeah. It's growing.
And we certainly have a lot of interest. The main thing is, as we're getting our structure really nailed down, it is really at this stage just about ready, what we're saying, for the grown-ups to see. And that is going to be super interesting. Yeah. And again, we will have to have what we call revenue producing. Essentially, we'll have to have gates, but there'll also have to be elements that are free.
Yes.
And probably things, but most definitely things like free days. There will absolutely not be anything to bar anyone from visiting this garden.
Got it.
Right. And, income streams, we'll have various income streams as well as, merchandise and, education, workshops, even
Mm-hmm.
Going to sell a lot of coffee cups.
A lot of coffee.
When are those available?
Sooner than you think.
Soon. Good. I thought that might be the case.
Within the next couple of months.
Excellent. Good. So I'm going to pause here and just I want to remind people that if you would like to leave a comment or ask a question, and you're on the membership site has a lot of white background. If you're watching from there, you do need to navigate to YouTube, and that's where you can add the comments and questions. So we have been getting some questions about land. So that I, of course, want it right in my backyard, please, as I'm sure everybody else does. But what can you tell us about land, or where you are in that process, or how that's going to unfold?
Hey, there's writing on the screen.
Yes, see?
That's what happens when you put on your glasses. Well, we've been looking for land now for, when did we really start focusing on this, Sean? Maybe in the summertime? It's, you narrowed down the site selection yet. Well, we've been focusing on, we've got a couple of major contenders that we're currently looking at. It's a very complicated process. It's on a lot of levels. It's stunning to me, actually. I've learned so much. But the two that have risen to the top, at least this month. I mean, we're not saying that something else might not pop up. You never know. It depends on the partners that we're working with and so on. But we're looking at two major sites now. One's a golf course, an existing golf course that has a lot of acreage, that's not in the city center. And I know you want to know where it is, but I'm not sure that I should actually say exactly where it is. But sorry. And the other one's actually a.
All right, thanks, Greg.
But it's not 80 acres. Otherwise, we'd use it. No.
Right, definitely. And I'm really trying to cut down on.
More plants.
Visitors, so no visitors.
Seriously, you don't need a gate at your front door. And the other one is actually it's an EPA Superfund site that's located on the Willamette River, which is a gorgeous piece of property that comes with its It's challenges. So
we're calling it bringing super fun to the super fund. So,
so say that again. Super fun to the super fund.
Fun to the super fund.
That makes sense. That's good. So so you're kind of just in conversations with these two sites, and if it's somebody else raised their hands, you found a different one, then that would get folded in.
Yeah.
But does that?
Well, let's talk about why. I mean, what goes into the selection of location?
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, feel free to jump in at any point. But it's extensive. It's of course size. It's accessibility. When you think about how you get people to a site, and if it's in the middle of a fairly dense neighborhood, all of a sudden if we're expecting 3,000 visitors a day, for instance, how do they get to the site through a neighborhood? And it's just logistics like that. Or is there public transportation? Or how close is it? Is there infrastructure on the site? Or are there utilities?
Right.
What's the microclimate? Right there. That's Sean's favorite.
That's interesting. That was the lowest. It's the least. The lowest on the list is, what's the soil like? What's the climate like? Because all these other things have to be, because you can probably adapt the garden to the place more than the place to.
It's true, and we do know, that is part of the thing. But we actually have a checklist of where we're balancing sites against each other, and it's all of those things, and it's can we afford it? Who are the partners that might be interested in this site? And so Sean, what else am I missing?
Well, I think really you've hit it. We've got these lists of criteria, and they all take priority depending on the site, and they will take priority as far as maybe who government partners are, for instance. The most important thing to us really is that this creation can be built by Portland's cultures, and it won't be isn't something that will just say, here it is, it's for you, come and get it.
Right.
We've got to have a lot of input, and that way we do have to get physically people to the garden. So one of the major criteria are that it is super close to public transit. So it's not to get.
Yes.
Or, if you don't drive, or you'd rather not, or if it's not a good idea, or whatever. But we got to get people there, and we really want to make it a habitat for all of our cultures here. And that's nothing more important than that.
True.
Cool.
So it's complex. Very complex.
Yeah. So, and maybe, this is kind of woven in there, but, this talk of location and, funding, we came up with this idea of when does it start? To me, it seems like it's already maybe started. So I don't know if that's the right question, but, what can we maybe expect to see next? What are you going to be asking of us as interested parties? So what's kind of paint the picture of the next 6 months for us?
Well, other than buying coffee cups,
writing checks.
Right. Exactly. I think, Kate, do you want to maybe summarize a little bit about all of Dan's work on the web?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of things actually going on now. It's amazing how, we were nothing but I shouldn't say nothing. We were just a group of people sitting around a room brainstorming, or at least they were, and then I came and I whipped them into shape. But to develop an organization from the ground up is, especially a nonprofit, is a lot of work. And we just got our 501c3 last week.
Woohoo! That's a milestone.
So it's a milestone, that's for sure. And even that alone takes a lot of work, and very grateful to our attorneys for that. But
and maybe for viewers, let us know, why is that so exciting?
Oh, what is a 501c3? It's actually it's an internal revenue service. I mean, I don't know, I may butcher this explanation, but basically it's a status that allows you to be a nonprofit, which means that you can basically take donations and funding. Thank you, Chris. To take donations, and the premise of a nonprofit is that it exists for public benefit, which of course that's what we will be doing. So it allows people to support the organization instead of being a corporation. We are a corporation, but a corporation for profit, which is a different situation. We're not giving back to. I mean, they're not giving. They may be, but yeah, you get my point. So there's the 501c3 business. Developing a board. There's a huge thing in itself, and we've got our co-founders are board members, and we've got one other amazing board member. But right now we're setting up the whole infrastructure for a board and working with a consultant who's pro bono, who's helping us develop a whole infrastructure for our board, and then will help us recruit people that are appropriate to where we are now, which is, we're moving from a founding board to a real governing board, a working board, and who are the people that we need on our board in order to donate or to give of their time or to connect us with. Yes, and donations will be tax deductible, Greg.
That's an important point. That's where I was trying to lead you.
Right.
Thank you. Go right to our website.
Well, those of us with nurseries already know about nonprofits. So
right.
Just making it official.
Indeed. Anyway, developing board. We're also developing educational programs now in the background as we're trying to figure out what kind of educational programs do we want to offer, and what will complement those that are currently being offered by other gardens and institutions within the Portland area, because we don't want to be competitive. It's more of
right. You want to be additive. Yeah, there's a whole assessment of the other really great things that are already happening,
and that's what we're actually doing, that assessment right now. And
that's something actually we might want to just interrupt. That we are. It's really a major part of what we're doing is making sure that this is a bit of a hub with so much horticulturally going on in the area, that this entity serves to promote other existing gardens here and their niches.
Right. I think that's a really important point, because I think a lot of somebody initially hearing this and then ticking off in their mind that we do have these other gardens. So where does that fit in, and does it detract or add? And I think what I'm hearing you say is that the vision is for it to be additive, and I think that's really something to keep at the forefront.
And part of that is with Portland's increasing tourism, we have a lot of we will again have a lot of people visiting the city and experiencing what it has to offer. And often, of course, I have a nursery. People come into town. The first thing they say is, "Well, we want to go to the botanical garden." Well, this will help with that. But the idea is that if we can make sure we have a system by which people are doing the circuit and making sure that we're promoting outside the area, outside the state, outside the country, what people can experience here, that's going to be important. Also, it's essentially sharing our party with everyone else.
Yeah, right. And I like the description of the what was it? The hub. But you said something else earlier that I really
somebody used
the speakeasy. The speakeasy. I like that.
Somebody used the term that we would be the mycorrhizal. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical.
Something about shrooms, anyway.
Something about
yeah. Yes.
And we also want to be able to, this is in conversation with another group the other day, is also to connect people, especially locally, into the amazing natural areas that are available locally, as well as gardens. It's really, especially through this whole past year of COVID. I mean, it's more essential than ever to get out in nature.
Yeah, that is
preaching to the
we also have so many areas just in the state. And one of Portland really, as a political entity, has a lot of power in now. People are listening to us. And with a young, like me, and all of us here, population, if getting people to know what natural systems we have around us, and both the wonder of them, but also the fragility of them, if people are informed about what they can go see and how they can help that is really a big thing for not only us, but our environment.
Yeah, and tourism and all of that. So what happens next? You know,
people buy coffee cups.
Well, so I think we'll kind of do this, and this next topic of next steps. How do we get involved? Is there an ask for us today? The people that are viewing and interacting with us today.
Well, I think we need our next steps really are to continue to secure the land.
Yeah,
that's critical. And I think that once we can say this is where we're going, then we go forward like a rocket ship.
Okay. And is it unfair to ask, like, just a rough time, like, if everything just went swimmingly and it was awesome?
Oh, it could happen.
That would be, how long would that take? Or if it's a little longer than expected, how long would that take? I mean, just some sort of ballpark.
We might be off by 10 minutes, really, but with the pieces of land we're physically looking at right now, the idea is to get boots and sandals and things on the ground pretty quickly.
Wow.
So with some of these spots, the learning opportunities with the website that are going up, that is information that can happen almost right away. Actually, some of it can happen right away. Physically, some of these spots have beautiful places to both restore and interpret right now. So really, it could be a year or two, not very long. And
even sooner, I think, if everything really truly lined up. I mean, even end of the year, I would think.
All right, we got a couple.
10 acres. No, not 10 acres. I don't think 10 acres is big enough. This Chris is asking.
Yeah, it's funny where we are fitting a lot of goodies into one basket, and we're also looking at some scale of things that the conservatories would be pretty big. We're looking at actually recreating some fairly large environments in this place, and also able to make it what we call flex space. So we can have events there. We can build in a place of scale that we can actually create some income, which it's the underbelly of all these things, but it's certainly something we need to do to make sure the gates are going to be perpetually open. And
that's the sustainability part. That's
the sustainability thing, and it is a fairly large scale. And if we're looking at these biogeographic collections, we really want people to be able to immerse themselves in some of these spots. So, where ideally it's 80 to 150 acres, easy, right in the middle of Portland, right?
Yeah.
But smaller or larger, some of these spots actually have native areas that have been overgrown with weeds around them. So we're very much into our own histories of guerrilla gardening. So part of that might be natural surroundings.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So it sounds like, there is a certain minimum size, and it's probably large. It's not 10 acres. It's larger by far than that. So to actually achieve the vision. And segueing, I think we have Flynn asking, how can we volunteer to help out? Is it too soon for that? Is that something that you're looking for now?
Well, all of us are actually volunteers at the moment. And we are being very, very, we as a team, and we really do work very closely as a team, even though we may have titles that people understand. It's important to have that. But the Albuquerque Botanical Garden is beautiful, actually. I think.
Yeah, and a startup. So
is it? I didn't actually know that. That's a great place. Santa Fe is a beautiful one too. I'm
fond of Denver.
Denver is actually one of our models. The way
I was wondering if it was.
Their involvement with the arts. Actually, Denver, that garden was all funded by an arts tax.
That's what I was kind of wondering if I don't know enough about the art tax and the way that they funded that to ask a very intelligent question, but I do know that because I've had I have family there, and so I've had the opportunity to go to the Denver Botanic Garden quite a bit, and it's a personal favorite. And I know that their funding model is a little different and very stable.
Interesting. Yeah, we haven't really gone down that road yet with various cities or state for that matter. But so as far as getting involved, really, we're being very careful, and as we build our organization, we don't want to bring people in too soon so that we're not able to use their expertise and their help. So as I started to say, right now we've got a great team that's working on our website, which is going to be a terrific source of information for everybody, we hope, including we hope an herbaria eventually, and a really almost encyclopedic, is that the word? Encyclopedic?
Comprehensive.
Comprehensive. Thank you. About all the plants that we are hoping to have in the garden, as well as what will be in the garden eventually. But right now, I think that what we'll be needing probably next is people that are fundraisers to be able to help us. We don't really have a fundraising team, so that will be as we move closer to gaining land, that's where we'll be. Yes, and a fundraising board, exactly.
Yeah, so I was trying to read Chris's message, and it said and a fundraising board, but maybe he meant add a fundraising board.
Well, no, what he means is that people that are on our board will be fundraisers.
Oh, right.
We have a number of sort of smaller teams on our support board, and the group of people supporting this, and one newly formed is actually the granting and fundraising team.
Of which Chris is a part, by the way. Chris is
Okay, that's making sense a little bit.
Yep. So we're just sort of developing that. But as far as I think that if people will watch our website, that will be where we can post opportunities for volunteers.
I noticed you did some updates recently. It's been changing.
It has been changing. There's we have a significant team now working on developing information and pages and SEO optimization and so on and so forth. They're doing an amazing job.
So, another thought about people getting involved, it's really funny because we want this to be built by the entire community, and that's on one side. And the other is that as people join our infrastructure in whatever means, we want to make sure we have the bodies to make sure people are appreciated, for one thing, and not sort of left out spinning rainbow doing their thing. And so part of it is building some infrastructure at the same time.
Right.
And luckily we've also had people come in that can do that.
Yeah, and probably there will come a time where it's like you're ready and it's like, come on, everybody. But you're not there yet. And kind of on, I think I hold on, I'm trying to find this question that I got.
The funders?
So somebody, that one is up there. I don't know if you have anything to add, but Mike asked that. But then we also had Flynn asked via the form, and I know that this isn't a now thing, but since the question was asked, I wanted to put it out there in case anybody else had that question.
I think that's a really good one. Employment opportunities, where
that's right.
To some degree, of course, we'll have the best and brightest in the world. And we're lucky in Portland to already have a few of those people around.
That's right.
The other is that there are a number of vocational programs that we have a number of, for instance, houseless communities. We have people with various disabilities that horticulture it just absolutely makes people shine. So it'll be a very, very strong emphasis on employment for people and vocational employment for people. So we want it to be really inclusive and actually a real tool. I think one idea here is that, for instance, gardeners in Portland, who takes care of most of our landscapes? Who prunes everything from here to Bend into little boxes? It's communities that definitely need to be brought into the fold and given the opportunity to learn standard horticultural techniques in whatever language is appropriate, and given then the strength to move on their own and then start creating our new horticultural style. But we really want to eliminate what I call the grass ceiling that we have, especially in horticulture. Sorry about the bad pun.
It's great,
but
though.
This thing has got to be a useful tool at every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to answer the question about funders?
Sure. We don't know. No, we have some very generous offers so far. One of them is a link to a couple of really upstanding universities. So that started us off on our university track as far as research.
Yeah.
And there are multiple departments of universities that are already involved in what we're doing and are really helping inform the research aspect of what we're doing. And also the really interesting combination of conservation, genetic study, and wellness, which 10 years ago, that would have been so hippy dippy. It would, even to me, that would have been weird. But really having a healthy environment and knowing about our surrounding environment is going to be important.
Yeah.
So it is amazing the number of what I would call staid categories, from government institutions to academic, that are combining here and creating what I think are a lot of new thoughts.
Nice.
And I think, and the same with, again, some of our best design firms. So we're really building on it, and there'll be so many announcements coming up as we're solidifying these. But a lot of good stuff happening there.
Nice. Well, we have been trying to keep these to an hour, so I want to put a last call out there for any questions. I've gone through. I think we've answered most of the questions that were there. Let's just give it a couple more minutes. And
there was one I saw.
Yeah.
It saw maybe, for instance, in the Stafford area. What we're trying to hone in rather quickly on appropriate pieces of land, but we are not yet ruling anything out because we can't do that. We have criteria, but again, they keep adjusting, and Stafford's not that far out. So a place that is accessible via transit, if it's available, talk to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would. Totally.
Yeah.
And we're also looking for partnerships too. Whether we're forging partnerships with everybody from firms that can help us to cities and utilities and government agencies. And so if anybody belongs to any of those and has some ideas, we'd love to hear from you. I think you can email us both on our website. I think you can find our emails.
Yeah, and let me put that up. So these are the places that you can reach out and find these folks. They have their website, and they're on Instagram and Facebook. So
just make sure you get the S in the gardens.
I got it, don't I?
You got it. You got it.
I got it. Okay, but at first I didn't. You have to do the S.
You have to do the S. We don't have any choice now that we've got the IRS.
You just email Portland Botanicals. We're not sure what you're going to get. So
isn't that the truth? Yes. What is?
Nobody has any questions.
Let's see. No, they've been asking us along, but let's see. Greg had a couple. Will there be areas that are combos? Area. This is after my heart, right? Combos of plants from different regions, just for the sheer beauty. Thank you, Greg. Isn't that?
Absolutely. That is of utmost importance. We'll actually have a number of themed areas in the garden, I'm sure, that are just simply botanical themes that are either fun, humorous, useful for various reasons. A lot of the garden will also be, for instance, even if it is geographically inclined, that we're going through sort of natural ecosystems, we will have horticultural entities and combinations within them. So, for instance, when the Chinese garden was going in such a small space, we had to have, self-regulation, but we had at least 3 reasons for a plant to go into the garden. So it can be interpreted as far as people, as far as beauty, and as far as being a native part of the region. So, it's going to be I can't use the term. It's going to be great and really pretty.
All right. Well, let's see. I think we're going to be signing off momentarily here. Just a reminder that this replay is going to be available on on the website initially, and then ultimately it'll be on YouTube in a shareable format, but that'll happen probably in about a week. In the meantime, people can log in and watch it on my membership site while you're there. Feel free to look in on some of the other things that are there, like the talk that we had with Laura last week. And let's see. So, and I will make sure if from the page, you can direct link to the Portland Botanical Gardens. And I hope that maybe we can have you guys back with an update later. And we'll do this again. And it's just also very exciting. So thank you guys so much for the work that you've done thus far. Thank you for joining me today. And
grateful to be here.
Thanks so much, Darcy.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And thank you everybody for signing in and
questions.
Yeah.
Look us up.
Email us. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. These are really late, but one said, would you consider getting horticulture students involved? And I wanted to bring that one up because I think I know the answer. I think you'll want that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've already been talking actually to PCC Rock Creek where I teach.
Excellent.
In the last
and we've already been taking some interns for doing various things. So
absolutely.
It will be absolutely primary. Yep. Think of a gardening school that's like no other, for instance.
For instance.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. All right. Yes. So this will be. We'll stay tuned. I can't wait to hear about what happens next. And thank you so much, Sean and Kate, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Darcy.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I like that.
Studio audience claps.